Our old relationship with the United States, a relationship based on steadily increasing integration, is over.
I think you're going to see shipments from Canada to the United States completely stop.
It would be there would be grave consequences imposed on Canada if they think about shutting off electricity for the United States.
I want to ensure that France and the whole of Europe works enthusiastically with Canada, the most European of non-European countries.
So as things stand, this is a break, not a breakup. But if Trump keeps this up, you never know.
Canada is no longer sitting around waiting for anyone to give the green light. They are stepping up and asserting their position. If you want to hear the raw, straightforward truth with no frills, hit subscribe and follow us to receive the most candid analysis of how Canada is shifting the game.
Canada is the world's fourth largest oil producer, but 98% of its crude is shipped to the U.S. But for the first time ever, this 733-mile pipeline expansion is finally bringing Canadian oil to new buyers across the ocean.
It basically changes the game for the entire industry here.
Canada is no longer waiting for anyone's permission. The country is stepping forward and rising with strength. For decades, Canada's oil was stuck on a one-way path south, where U.S. refineries had full control over pricing and decisions. But those days are over. With the completion of the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project, Canada has opened a direct route to the global market. Now, oil is no longer bound for U.S. refineries. Instead, it is being sent straight to customers in Asia. This is not just about oil, it's about autonomy. It's a strategic advantage, and it's long overdue. While Trump was busy with tariffs, Canada played the infrastructure game and is now ahead. The expansion of this 733-mile pipeline is not just about steel and oil, it's a clear message. The old relationship, quietly based on dependency, is gradually giving way to a new reality where Canada has the power to choose its customers in the US, and this time, they may have to wait in line like everyone else.
Now, with 600,000 barrels of increased capacity a day on the expanded pipeline, oil producers are shipping their product directly to markets including China and India. But that's been a blow to the American refiners who have been used to abundant access to discounted Canadian oil.
In June, Phillips 66, for example, one of the big refiners with a lot of refineries in the West Coast and the Gulf, said that their margins have been squeezed a little bit because all of a sudden they have less access to Canadian oil than they used to.
The flow of oil that once quietly entered the U.S. pipeline system has now transformed into a vibrant trade route crossing the Pacific. At Canada's ports, oil tankers are loaded, no longer heading to Texas or Illinois, but directly to Shanghai, Mumbai, and new markets ready to pay the full price. This is a major turning point. This means U.S. refineries can no longer rely on a steady supply of cheap oil simply because of geographic proximity. Every barrel of oil sent to Asia is a barrel the U.S. loses. The Trump administration never anticipated this scenario. While they were busy imposing tariffs and making threats, Canada quietly built ports, terminals, and a fleet of oil tankers. Now the oil has moved beyond U.S. control. This is not an act of retaliation. This is a realignment of the playing field. Canada is partnering with countries that truly value it. The message is clear and powerful. Loyalty is no longer something given freely.
And the shift could send ripple effects to consumers in the Midwest. Some experts expect refiners to pass higher crude costs along to customers at the pump. Better oil prices and more customers outside of the U.S. also mean a bigger geopolitical role for Canada.
This story is not just about international trade, but it directly impacts gas prices in small towns across the U.S. When refineries lose access to cheap crude oil from Canada, they don't just bear the cost themselves, they shift the burden to others. This means families in Michigan, Iowa, or Wisconsin will soon have to pay more at the pump. And it's not a distant future, it's happening right now. Even Phillips 66 has warned that their profits will be squeezed. They're being cornered and the pressure is mounting. The entire system was built on Canadian oil, and now the oil is flowing to other markets. This is not a coincidence. It all started with Trump crossing the line. Instead of negotiating in good faith, he chose to push too hard. The result is that the American people are the ones paying the price, and they're paying not just in dollars, but with their economic security. Whether Washington wants to admit it or not, the Midwest still depends on Canadian oil. When that supply is cut off, the damage doesn't just fall on refineries. It weighs down truck drivers, farmers, producers, and the entire supply chain. That is the true cost of arrogance.
Canada's access to the global market also gives the country a little bit more clout globally than it ever had before. Now, all of a sudden, Canada does have some position and some ability to kind of sway markets when they can.
When you have multiple options at your disposal, you gain control. And Canada now has plenty of options. No longer is oil stuck in pipelines heading to the US. Canada can now negotiate from a position of strength. This means higher prices, stronger partnerships, and true influence at the energy table. No more waiting for Washington's approval. No more begging for fair trade. This turning point has placed Canada in a strong position for negotiations. By accessing the global market, Canada's negotiating power has extended globally, and they have finally learned how to leverage that. Meanwhile, the US remains stuck in outdated thinking, clinging to the system they once controlled. But the world has changed, and so has Canada. Trump's team seems to fail to recognize that the axis of power no longer lies in Washington. And now, Canada, which had been silent for so long, is sending a clear message through action, making the whole world take notice.
We're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for them, but it's principle. I've directed the procurement of over $30 billion of goods not to go to the U.S., to make sure we buy Ontario first. And if we can't find it in Ontario and we can't build it in Ontario, we go across the country.
This is not just talk. It's a strategic strike, hitting the mark precisely. $30 billion is no small matter. That's factories, contracts, and thousands of American jobs being cut off. And this isn't coming from a few posts on social media, but from a policy executed quietly, decisively, and with focus. Canada is not loud. Canada takes action. Doug Ford's message is crystal clear. If anyone makes us a target, we will cut off the supply. And he is absolutely serious. Cutting $30 billion from American suppliers is a direct economic blow. Canada's provinces are now prioritizing domestic goods or turning to other partners. The consequence? American businesses that once relied on contracts with Canada are now scrambling to find their footing. This is not an impulsive reaction, it's a calculated counterattack. This is the power of leverage, and Canada has finally learned how to use it, while Trump is still caught up in blame games and old tricks.
I've had deep conversations with my good friend, closest ally, Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan. That uranium goes over to Port Hope, Ontario to get processed. From Port Hope, it goes down to get enriched, down to the U.S. I will not and cannot speak for Scott Moe. He's a patriot, he loves Canada, but if we got a stockpile or high-grade nickel here in Ontario and sell it to the world, so be it.
Without uranium, defense cannot be maintained. No nuclear power, no submarines. And you know what? A significant portion of uranium comes from Canada, mined, refined, and then sent straight to the US energy centers and military systems. That lifeline, it's in Canada's control, and Ford just reminded everyone of that. If the US thought Canada's loyalty was eternal, this is a wake-up call. That uranium supply line is like an electrical grid running through Saskatchewan and Ontario. Canada hasn't used it as a threat without reason. But with heavy tariffs and public attacks from Trump, the provinces have begun to speak out, reconsidering and recalculating. If uranium exports are halted, the US energy and defense systems will be immediately impacted. Now, this issue has gone far beyond friendly trade. This is a matter of national interest. And this time, Canada is putting its own interests first. Trump has underestimated the complex interdependencies of this supply chain and the speed with which it can become a tool of leverage.
I'm going to be hammering the airwaves to get that message to the Americans. They're going to get hurt. It's the wrong decision. But if they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face. So, and I'm encouraging every other province to do the same. Quebec, Manitoba, BC, we all have to act in unison. Out east, they rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard, we're going to come back twice as hard.
This is not a sensational headline. This is a commitment that Canada will not stand idly by and take economic blows without responding with even stronger counterattacks. Ford made it clear. Come to Ontario, and you'll see the collective strength of the provinces with everything still under control. No chaos, no confusion. With a smile, Ford understands that Ontario's energy serves not just the local area, but extends to many states in the northeastern U.S. If this supply were to disappear, the entire power grid would be under immense pressure, and Canada knows this well. The story isn't just about oil, it's about electricity, uranium, and even clean energy technology. Canada is fully capable of shifting the balance, and they are ready to do so. This is both the final warning to Trump and a clear signal to the world that Canada is no longer afraid. The provinces are united. Quebec, Manitoba, and British Columbia are all on board with the call for cooperation. The trade war that Trump started hasn't divided Canada. On the contrary, it has made the country more united than ever.
As President Trump is going after our dairy farmers, we're sending them fertilizer. 87% of it is going to the U.S. And yeah, can they try to get potash everywhere else? They can, but they can't get it up the Mississippi River. So they're stuck with Canadian potash. Can they get uranium? Yeah, if they want to cozy up to Russia, which I see President Trump doing, you can try to get uranium there. But why would you do that? We want to ship more uranium, more potash, more nickel, more energy, and build an AMCAN fortress.
This figure is certainly enough to make anyone in Washington worried. Potash is not just a fancy concept, it's a key component in fertilizer production. Without it, crops in the US will fail, farmers won't be able to harvest, and food won't be able to reach the market. 87% of this vital mineral comes from Canada. Now, Ford is bluntly stating that this supply is no longer a certainty. This is the kind of leverage that many countries only dream of. Potash feeds the central region of the US, and if this flow is halted, food prices will rise, crop yields will decline, and rural economies will face a severe shock. Trump's confrontational policies against Canadian goods are quietly creating a new crisis. Social media won't get you out of a food shortage. When Trump threatened Canada's economy, he unwittingly triggered a reaction aimed directly at the agricultural, energy, and industrial foundations of the US. And this time, it's not just Ottawa taking action. The provinces are united, calculating their strategy, ready and determined to make Trump's empty boasts pay the price, down to every acre of land.
You think that's helping Kentucky bourbon be exported into India? I don't think so. 100% tariff on agricultural products from India. Look at Japan, tariffing rice, 700%. President Trump believes in reciprocity, and it is about dang time that we have a president who actually looks out for the interests of American businesses and workers. And all he's asking for at the end of the day are fair and balanced trade practices, and unfortunately, Canada has not been treating us very fairly at all over the past several decades.
Bilateral cooperation sounds good until reality proves otherwise. Trump's protection of American businesses has turned into a strategy of self-isolation. He's not trying to build bridges, he's burning them. And ironically, the most severe consequences haven't come from adversaries, but from the closest neighboring countries. Canada didn't start this confrontation. It was drawn into the game, and now it's responding with something even stronger than tariffs. Alternatives. Industries in the US that once thrived thanks to a steady, affordable supply of goods from Canada are now being squeezed. Trump's nationalism may excite the crowds at rallies, but in the real world, its influence is slowly fading. By pushing Canada away, he is also unraveling supply chains, causing job losses, and cutting off revenue streams. The principle of tit for tat only works when both sides accept the rules of the game. But Canada has just rewritten the rules, and the US is being left behind, chasing an economic power model that no longer has a place in today's globalized world.
The president put out a statement after seeing those comments and said that it would be there would be grave consequences imposed on Canada if they think about shutting off electricity for the United States of America and our citizens. And the president is also determined to ensure that we are depending on American electricity, not the electricity production of foreign nations, including our allies in Canada. As for conversations, there is continued correspondence between the president's team, particularly Secretary Lutnick, and the Canadians as well.